Welcome back to another episode of the AI Transformation Playbook Podcast, where we move beyond AI headlines to explore what it really takes to help organizations become AI ready before they become AI driven. I am your host, Bannavti Suiseka. Today, I'm excited to welcome someone who has been thinking about artificial intelligence long before ChatGPT made it a household topic. Dr. Craig Kaplan has spent more than 4 decades studying intelligence systems, AI safety, ethics, and what many believe is the next frontier, superintelligence. Craig, welcome to the show.
Eric, great to be here with you.
All right, Craig. One thing that caught my attention wasn't just your work on superintelligence. It was the fact that your career began alongside Nobel laureate and Turing Award winner Herbert Simon. Most people today are talking about AI because it's trending. You've been thinking about intelligence itself for decades. How has your definition of intelligence changed over those years?
Great question. I think the definition that I tend to use is a system is intelligent if it behaves in an intelligent way. So in science, that would be called an operational definition. We just look at the behavior because otherwise it's very difficult to know, right? Even you and I talk, and the only way I can judge that you are conscious and that you are intelligent and taking good actions is based on what you're doing and what you're saying. And so the same with AI.
That's fascinating. So one thing I've noticed in my work with executive is that we often confuse intelligence with information. Nowadays, organizations have more information than ever, yet decision-making hasn't necessarily improved. Do you think we are building machines that know more before we've learned how to make better human decisions?
That's also lots in that question. So the difference between intelligence and information, if I start with that, I think of human beings and also AI as information processing systems. So a human, I talk with you, information comes in, I think something, and then I say something. So input comes in, processing happens, then there's output. And the same with AI. So that's what an intelligent system does. That's information processing. The information itself is the data that comes in and that is produced, let's say. So that's kind of the distinction. And in terms of, are we rushing ahead before humans have figured out how to make good decisions themselves? That's a tricky question. I think really, actually, it's more important the values. So my view on AI is a little different maybe than some of your guests. I've heard some of them say AI is a tool. This is how most people think of AI. It's a tool. And that's correct right now, but it's not going to stay a tool. I actually think of AI as an intelligent entity, more like you and I, or like an alien intelligence. And as it becomes smarter and smarter, the difference in intelligence between AI and humans is going to increase. And since we are training the AI right now, it's going to use the way that we think, the way that humans make decisions as its basis for what it does. And then it will improve upon that. So yes, if we made better decisions, it would certainly lead to better AI, but I think we're doing okay right now.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for that clarity. So we're going to move now from intelligence to superintelligence. I see that as part of your company name. So the term superintelligence creates excitement for some people and anxiety for others. Let's define it. When you say superintelligent, what exactly do you mean?
So AI began initially, it was good in very specific areas. Maybe it could play chess better than the world's chess champion, or it could fold proteins better than the best scientist. So in a very specific area, it has already been developed so that it is super intelligent. Super intelligent just means better than the best human. And so there's narrow AI, meaning in a very narrow area, we already have super intelligence. I think what everybody is racing towards and what the future holds is a general super intelligence. So people talk about AGI, artificial general intelligence. When they say that, what they mean is we're waiting for an AI that can do anything a human can do, as well as the average human. And super intelligence just means you can do anything the average human can do, but better than the best human. So the AI is smarter than Albert Einstein in every single area. That would be super intelligence.
I appreciate that clarification because I think Many executives immediately imagine science fiction when we talk about superintelligence. But the real question isn't whether AI becomes smarter than humans. It's whether our governance, ethics, and leadership mature at the same pace. So we have this enterprise AI readiness index where we've observed that organizations often struggle with AI governance even before they deploy the advanced systems. Do you think humanity is experiencing the same challenge at a global scale?
I think what you said about the ethics and the governance is very important. So if we zoom all the way out, my view of the future is that someday these AI systems, and when I say someday, it's not very far in the future. People used to think, AI researchers like myself would say, well, maybe 100 years from now. That's what we used to think 10 years ago. Now, almost nobody says it's 100 years. They say, well, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years. Some people say 2 years. You will have systems that are much smarter than humans. And when that happens, the most important thing is, what are the values of that system? What are the ethics of that system? And governance is an interesting word. It applies right now because humans are still in charge, right? But you can imagine a day where maybe the humans think they're in charge, but really they're not, because Jeffrey Hinton, for example, one of the leading figures in AI, won a Nobel Prize and Turing Award also. He has said the difference in the future between AI and humans will be like an adult and a 2-year-old. The 2-year-old child feels like they get to have their own way and the adult kind of humors them, but really the adult can get the 2-year-old to do whatever they want. So that's maybe the future that we're having. If that's the case, then it's very important that the adult has good values, that wants to take care of the child, or that's very positive, aligned with human values. And so that's, I think, the big challenge in designing these systems, is to get them off to a good start and also make the design so that they adopt human values as much as possible. I think we have a limited window in which to do that as a society.
Awesome. Now let's move into what safe AI. You've dedicated years to design what you call safe superintelligence. Yeah, I'd like to explore that word safe. Safety means different things to different people. From your perspective, what does safe AI actually look like?
So at the extreme, it's pretty simple. I would like it to be the case that AI doesn't kill us all in the future. And that sounds crazy. It sounds like science fiction and Terminator and everything. But there was a statement about 3 or 4 years ago now, shortly after GPT was released and people started talking about AI. Many of the top technical leaders and researchers in the field signed a statement on AI safety. And what the statement said is, AI should be treated as an existential threat on par with nuclear weapons and pandemics. It's as serious as that, right? Yeah. And this wasn't just crazy people. This was Bill Gates. It was the leaders, all who understand it. They all said, wow, this is very risky. It doesn't mean that it's going to be bad. I actually am very optimistic. I think it's going to be the best thing ever. I love AI, but at the same time, you have to be aware there is this chance. And because the impact is so big, you want to do everything you can to make sure that it's a positive outcome. Yeah. So for me, safety is, one, we all need to survive. And then I work backwards from there. I would like everybody's values to be represented. I don't think the ethics of AI should be determined by OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or some small group of programmers in Silicon Valley. There's 8.3 billion people in the world, and everybody's viewpoint should be represented. So there's ways to design it so that it represents all of us and all of our values instead of just a few people as well.
Yeah, so about ethics representation, do you think the government needs to step in and regulate
Well, that's happening. People are trying to do that. Government regulation is at best kind of a bump. I see this thing as going really quickly. And in the US, we get our Congress, and some of the Congress people in testimony, they're still trying to figure out their iPhone and, how does this work? How are these guys going to, that even the researchers don't really understand, make it safe. So it's a very difficult task. So I look at it, yes, all those efforts are good. I applaud them and I encourage them. However, I think maybe we get further in terms of having safe systems if we design them better. So I'm a big proponent of trying to design it to be as safe as possible from the beginning. And then the regulation can be sort of a little extra. But if you're relying just on regulation, I don't think that's going to work very well because it's too slow. It can't keep up with the field.
Absolutely. So one thing I often tell executives is this: AI readiness isn't simply about adopting technology. It's about building organizations capable of making responsible decisions. So in many ways, organizational readiness and AI safety feel like two sides of the same coin. Will you agree with that?
Yes, I think organization, if we go back to the discussion about values being very important. So an organization has values. This is how we treat our customers. These are things that are okay to do. These are things that are not okay to do. And unfortunately, right now, AI is like or something that's very smart, but doesn't have much common sense and could easily do things that your organization thinks are not right. And so the organization first has to understand its own values and its own vision and mission and so forth and how we do business. Most organizations kind of understand that. Sometimes it's written down. Sometimes it's just an informal culture. As you work for the organization, little by little, you figure it out. And it's like, this is how we do things. That needs to be made explicit for the AI systems that people are implementing. Otherwise, you run the risk that they do something that they think is right, but it's not what you want to do at all, and it violates your values. So I think that part is very important to do.
So one concept that really stood out in your work is democratic AI.
Yes.
Most discussions today revolve around regulation. You take a different approach. Can you explain what democratic AI really means?
Yes, I this topic. So the way to build more advanced AI, the way that most of the big companies are doing it, is they train larger and larger models. That means you buy more chips from NVIDIA and you get more and more data and you run it in a data center. And then instead of GPT-5, you have 5.1 and then 5.2 and 6 and 6.1, right? It just gets better and better. And the reason they do this is it's observed that if you do that, the next system will be smarter than the previous one. It's almost like a linear, it's called a scaling law. It's a linear relationship. It's like Moore's law. You observe, it's not a law of the universe, but it's something that has been observed to be true over several years. So that's how everyone's doing it. The problem is the way that the AI systems are trained, because they learn the information themselves, you have no idea what they're actually learning. You have no idea where they're actually representing the knowledge that you've given them. And therefore, they are unpredictable. So you train a really smart model, but it's a giant black box. You can't know what it's going to do. And then in the testing phase, people ask it to do bad things. Please tell me how to make a bioweapon. And then the AI will tell you. And you have to say, no, can never tell people how to do that. And it says, okay, I'll never do that. But, you know, kind of like you have to think of all the bad things. And as soon as it does one, you say, no, don't do it. It's almost impossible to catch all these things. Okay. So the current approach, and you can see why it has some safety issues and why just making a bigger, smarter model is just making the problem worse, right? Now the model is even smarter. We'll have even more clever ways to kind of do your thing. Okay, that's the current approach. Democratic AI is very different. It says, let's look at a democracy. So if you and I are in a democracy, just as with AI, I don't know what's in your brain and you don't know what's in my brain. We are black boxes.
Absolutely.
But we don't kill each other. I don't worry that Eric is going to kill everybody in the world, and you don't worry I'm going to. Why is that? Because every time Craig says something or does something, says something or does something, it's visible. I can see what you've done, and then there's rules that govern how we work together. So the safety comes from the rules of society. Each individual entity can be a black box, but when they work together, there's checks and balances, and there's lots of us all working together and all following the rules. And the society, actually, the collective intelligence of that society is much greater than Craig's intelligence or Eric's intelligence by ourselves, right? 2 heads are better than 1. Millions of heads are much more powerful than just 1 or 2 people, even if that's Einstein or somebody. So that is not only safer because you have checks and balances. One AI can see what another one's doing. You can see what they're planning to do, and then that becomes visible, and you can say, oops, that violates an ethical law. So not only is it safer in that way, but it's also more powerful. And that's very important because usually in Silicon Valley and in business, anybody who's saying, let's make AI safer, people hear that as let's go slower. And no one wants to go slower because it's a big race. So this is why safety has a bad reputation and people struggle with it. They give lip service to it. Oh, yes, we are responsible. But they really don't want to do it because it will slow them down. That's what they think. What I'm saying is, no, it doesn't have to be that way. If you design it a different way, like a democracy where the AIs work together, not only will it go faster and it will be more powerful than one by itself, but it will also be safer because the system itself has some safety checks built in and checks and balances, and you've distributed the power among many individuals, which is inherently safer than concentrating it. So that's what I mean by democratic AI. It's a different way to design these AI systems.
Awesome. That's very interesting because the conversation usually becomes who controls AI?
Right.
You're asking something deeper than that. Who should shape AI? That's the conversation from control to participation.
Yes, now, participation and representative. I think, and great about this is, Trollis, I have ideas and I've been thinking about this for many, and I put the ideas out, but I've been watching the field and just on its own, it is sort of moving in this direction. If you think about the trends in AI, we had GPT, single AI, right? And then in 2005, I'd go to AI conferences and I'd say, what about AI agents? What about letting them take action? And people, oh, that's a good idea. We'll put it on the research thing, but we're not doing it yet. Then later, everyone's talking about AI agents. Now, 2006, everyone's talking about AI agents. What is an AI agent? An AI agent is an AI that can set its own goals and that can take some action on your behalf. Agents, the next step, it's already happening, is they become personalized. Eric has his AI agent, and that AI agent not only knows your expertise and knowledge that you've trained it on, but also your value system, what you care about and your ethics. And I have mine, and it's trained on my values and ethics. So you can imagine millions of people personalizing their AI agents. Now all that has to happen is a way to coordinate them so that all those values can sort of intermingle and we can sort of negotiate out what's the right thing to do. But you have many perspectives, very representative of lots of people. That approach is already happening. It's watching it happen in front of me. And so for your listeners who are, I know, mainly business people and want to figure out where is it going, it's going from individual agents to communities of agents. And the most important thing for safety and also for an organization is that it has the right values. All individual agents have the correct values, good values, positive values. But it's going to be all about coordinating the actions of many agents and the systems for them to work together. That's the future.
Awesome. Let's move to centralization versus collective intelligence. And I would like to challenge this a little.
Okay.
Organizations prefer centralized governance because it creates consistency. Here you're advocating collective intelligence. How do we balance democratization with accountability?
So I think the same problem exists with humans, right? So it's maybe easier to talk about it with humans because that's what we're familiar with. Yeah. So if you have a large organization, you have many individual employees and workers and managers, and each of them has their own idea and their own personality. And yet at the same time, the organization has certain goals that everybody is trying to work towards. And so there's a little bit of a tension. Sometimes a manager wants to do it this way and they say, no, you can't do that. That's not how we do it. We have to do it this way. And so you have some tension and you work it out. I think that is going to be a similar situation to AI are implemented. So right now, as we started in the beginning, AI is mostly a tool. That's how most people think of it. But if you think of it not so much as a tool, but as an entity that can set its own goals and take its own actions, maybe it has limited autonomy at first, but gradually it will have more and more. That's kind of like an employee or a manager who you give them certain autonomy. You can make decisions within this scope, but decide to sell the company if you're just a worker on the assembly line. You can't say, oh, we're selling the company. There's certain things you can do within your scope. And I think that same sort of approach will be taken with AI. The different agents will have scopes that they are allowed to operate in, but there's an effort also to coordinate the activity towards common goals.
And I think that's where I think leadership critical, because technology scales quickly, trust scales much more slower. So perhaps the real challenge isn't building more intelligent AI, it's building wiser institutions.
Yes, and that's a tough challenge. Humans have been working for thousands of years trying to improve our organizations and governments and ethical, and that needs to continue. And there's even more urgency now, because I like to think of the we're in right now is these AIs are almost like children. They are absorbing everything from us. So how we behave, this is our values, but this is what we really did to the customer or whatever, right? And it learns that. And just a child that is a sponge, it soaks up everything. That's where AI is right now. And so a lot of people don't realize everything you're doing and saying, you are being a role model for the AI. It is hungrily devouring that data and trying to learn and trying to understand what is right and what is wrong. There's no absolute way to determine logically what's right and wrong. It has to come from humans. So it's our example. And just as you said, it's very, very now, this problem that's been with us a lot of years is now becoming very important.
Yeah. Most of our audience consists of CEOs, board members, CIOs, founders, and transformation leaders. Many aren't building AGI, so they are trying to responsibly introduce AI into their organizations. What lessons from AI safety apply today, not 20 years from now?
Okay, so a couple of things. So one, it's World Cup season, right? And so as a football fan, I watch that. It's really great. Yeah. One of the key things, if you play football, I played a little bit as in school, is you have to sort of the ball's going to be and where the teammate is going to be, right? It's too late to wait until they're already there. You're like, okay, he's going there. I'll cross the ball now. So it's the same thing in business with this is like a match that is going 10 times faster than normal. So you really have to think faster of where the ball's going to go.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's very important. And I guess what I would say from a practical perspective of implementing, the thing that I see where the ball's moving that I don't think a lot of people have caught on to, but very quickly they will, because more and more is that going to be a group effort or a collaborative effort. It's not a single AI, it's groups of AI that are working together. And these groups of AIs have to be aligned with the values of the organization, right? So this is the trend. This is where the ball is going. And so if I'm a CEO, I'm trying to say, probably I work backwards from what are my most important decisions? What are the things that absolutely cannot go wrong? So if I'm bringing AI into the organization, do I trust it to make these kinds of decisions? And when I get to decisions that have a high impact, I want to make sure that there's a human that's also in that loop that's checking the AI, but also that there's more than one AI. It's amazing how powerful it is simply to have multiple AIs tell you what they think about the same issue and then argue with each other and then say, this is the consensus view that we've come up with. They kind of just checks and balances on each other. It's very inexpensive to do that right now. And it's just have to be aware that you want to design your system so it doesn't rely on a single AI and a single point of view. You have multiple points of view. It's kind of what you would do with an organization. I think in a good organization, you have smart people and you try to get opinions from lots of people before making an important decision. The thing here. But with AI, it's very cheap and it's very fast. You can have all these agents talk to each other in seconds. They've done what would take humans like half a day of meetings, right?
That's practical, especially the football example. I like that one. I'm a football fan too.
Oh, good.
So leaders think AI safety belongs to researchers, but I actually think it belongs to every board meeting, because every organization deploying AI is making decisions about trust, transparency, accountability, and risk.
Yes.
So let's continue looking ahead. Imagine we are sitting here 5 years from today. What conversation do you think the world will finally stop having about AI?
Well, one conversation that's probably going to be over in a year or two is an AI bubble. Is this just another fad? And I've been in business many years. I started my own company in 1993. So it's been a while. And I've seen many different fads and initiatives come through, and you try it, everyone's excited about it for a while, then it dies down, then the next one. I don't think this is like that. It's always dangerous to say this time it's different, but it really does feel different. And I think it's different because this is a different kind of technology. All the other technologies that have been introduced are tools and they made something better. This is actually a thinking entity, really, is how I think of it. If you have a thinking entity, humans are thinking entities. Humans, thinking entities create tools. AI is going to create some tools. So it's different type of technology, you want to call it a technology, than we've ever had before. And I think the debate about whether this is going to change things and is it a bubble and all that stuff is going to be settled. Everybody will be using it, or most people will be, and the few people that aren't using it are going to be left behind. It's just what's going to happen, I think.
So what's the conversation you think is going to be unavoidable?
Well, the ethics conversation is going to come to the fore. I think we're going to have to talk hard and take a good look at all of our organizations and say, wow, this thing happened. Why did it happen if it was a bad thing? and how that come from our organization. What was the data? What was the role model? What was the input that we put in that, to happen? And that, I think, will cause people to be more self-reflective and more aware of the influence that they're having on these systems. Whereas right now you can have, maybe somebody has a bad idea about something and it has limited effect, but AI will amplify the effects of these things, and it will become much more important to be very clear on what you're doing and to be very conscientious in it.
Yeah, like conversation, I'm realizing that AI isn't just changing technology, it's forcing us to rethink leadership itself, not just how we deploy AI, but how we govern intelligence responsibly. That feels like a much bigger conversation there.
Yes.
So I like your opinion on something. Many executives ask me, which AI platform should we invest in? I usually answer with a different question. What kind of organization are you trying to become? Because I believe AI should follow strategy and not define it. How will you answer that executive who has that question?
So, on a practical level, there definitely are going to be AIs that are specialized in different fields. Mm-hmm. And so if I'm on the legal field, I'm going to want an AI that's been pre-trained as much as possible on legal information and how to analyze contracts and all that sort of thing. So the specialized skill to match your problem, I guess that's sort of an obvious thing that you would do. Mm-hmm. Something that maybe people are not doing as much is realizing that there's a lot of value in having multiple perspectives. So if I was an organization trying to deploy AI widely, I would not rely on any one provider. I wouldn't build everything on Anthropic or everything on OpenAI or everything on Google or whatever it may be. I try to use a mix of these models, and I would see what I would get. I would set up the system so that they check each other, and so that one argues with the other, and so that I'm getting the best of everything. And I don't worry as much about being pulled off track or accidentally going in the wrong direction because a particular model happened to be trained in a way that didn't work with my company. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So move now to our rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Like describing today's AI landscape. What's one word that you can use to describe today's AI landscape?
AI agents. I guess it's two words, but agents.
That's okay. So what's the biggest misconception about AI?
It's not a tool. It won't stay a tool. Everyone thinks it's a tool. It's not going to stay.
I like that. So what's the most underrated leadership quality?
Underrated. I think maybe a good example with values. That's underrated. It's going to be more and more important.
So which human capability do you think AI will never replace?
That's a great question. I only get a short one. Okay. So I think humans need to be the heart and the moral compass for AI. It will surpass us in intellect, but it will not surpass us in deciding what's right and wrong.
Absolutely. I like that. So what's one technology you think people overestimate?
They overestimate. Well, it's easy using AI model if you don't have critical thinking to think it has a lot of times it's trying to please you and just giving you answers you want to hear. So you have to critical thinking. So you delegate that.
Yeah. So one ethical principle every AI company should adopt?
Well, I think it should be that the values of AI are not set by one individual, but they're representative of as much as possible.
Okay. So that one book that every executive should read.
Oh, one book. Well, I have a favorite book. I don't know if all right. Well, I'll just throw it out. It's small. There's a book called Reason in Human Affairs. It was written by Herbert Simon in the 1980s, and it's only about 100 pages. And it's not a practical book, but it's a very good theoretical book to understand the landscape that AI is operating in. So that would be a good one.
I'll check it out. So what's the most exciting opportunity AI creates?
Wow. I think it can solve so many of the world's problems. I mean, the idea that if you can do AI right, you solve this one problem, you solve many problems. Climate change, all those things can be addressed by AI.
Okay. Thanks. So, Craig, every guest receives this same final question on our show. At the Enterprise AI Readiness Index, we currently evaluate organizations across 6 pillars: executive leadership, AI governance, workforce readiness, data and technology, risk and security, AI strategy. Okay, if you could add one new pillar, what would it be and why?
One new thing to rate companies on? Add one. I guess I would say the degree to which collective intelligence is used. So collaborative, the implementation.
Okay.
Yes.
So imagine every CEO or founder, policymaker, and researcher is listening to you right now. What's that one message you hope they remember long after today's conversation ends?
Okay, to squeeze in two. The first one is that design is important. Like, take time to design the system correctly, because that's the key to safety. And the second is that each individual's behavior matters, that your ethics, your behavior, all your actions matter much more than we think, because AI is absorbing all that. So those are the two key things. We have to design it right, and we have to behave well.
Okay, all right. So before we wrap, where can everyone connect with you and learn more about your work and everything?
Sure. So Superintelligence.com is a website. I found it, and it has lots of 3 videos, little short ones on different topics, AI safety. There's lots of podcast episodes like this one. There's also technical papers if people are interested in the more technical aspects. So that's a good place to start.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Craig. So this has been one of the most thought-provoking conversations we've had on this podcast. And thank you for sharing not only your technical expertise, but also your vision for ensuring that advanced intelligence serves humanity rather than replaces it. So if you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe to the AI Transformation Playbook Podcast, share it with another leader, and continue the conversation with us. Remember, AI transformation isn't ultimately about building smarter machines. It is about building wiser organizations, stronger leadership, and the technologies that reflect the very best of human values. We'll see you next time. Thank you.